What's going on, everyone? We have some serious stuff to talk about today as the bond market is screaming for help right now. 96% of the S&P 500 closed down in the red today, and we have some big developments happening right now, and there's a lot of opportunity if you know where to look. Tom, we're not going to waste any time today. Let's get right to it.
Yeah, as we can see, the SPY definitely sold off in a very massive way today, and everybody's like screaming from the balcony, what is going on right now? And the SPY ended up pulling back pretty hard as we saw yields start to really pop off today. If we go check out the US 30Y and even the SPY, we can really pinpoint right where the sell-off started to happen, and it was right around 1 p.m. Eastern time today. At 1 p.m. Eastern time today, we had the 20-year bond auction happen, and the high yield rate came in at 5.047%, and the market obviously did not like this one bit, and this is right where we started to see yields start to explode, and where we started to see the SPY pull back quite a bit. Mike, with yields spiking as bad as they are, it's definitely very worrying in the short term. I know traders are really worried about that Japan situation as well, where they might end up selling out of U.S. bonds, which could end up pushing these yields even higher. And I would say, like, as I go to a daily chart of just like the US 30Y, we're almost past and to the peak of October of 2023. If we start to see a good extension past there, I mean, I think traders are going to start to freak out quite a bit.
Yeah, so basically what's happening right now is less and less people are showing up to buy our debt. And this is a big problem, but can you really blame people for this? Our deficit is getting worse and worse. Our expectations of inflation aren't calming down one bit, especially with this tariff situation. Our credit rating just got downgraded, and no one truly knows how this trade war is going to end up playing out. This is a problem because when borrowing costs rise, the economy slows down, and that is especially true in times of uncertainty like we are in now. The reason this is becoming more and more important is because Trump knows this is like a big problem, which is why he keeps calling on too late Jerome to cut interest rates. And basically, Trump needs interest rates to come down to boost the economy and just like stop this this debt freak out. But Jerome Powell said he is not interested in cutting interest rates anytime soon, which is why we are in this situation right now. This is a problem, and the SPY is starting to freak out a little bit, especially when you see signs where, less and less people are just slowly showing up to buy our debt.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a worrying concern in the short term. And I really think that something that's going on as well is that in the short term, traders are really trying to grasp onto anything that they can to just start to kick off some selling pressure. We all know that the SPY is pretty overextended, especially from its recent low. And over the past few weeks, there's been some pretty insane gap ups on the SPY from like 565 all the way up to highs of like 595 in just the point of like 1 week. So that is a very massive move here, and I think traders are saying, okay, the market's overextended and we're getting a little bit of bad news, let's take some profits in the short term. And I think that ultimately that's what we're starting to see here. And of course, institutions and money makers are throwing their money at it too. But at the end of the day, I do think that these traders are getting very worried in the short term. I'm getting a little bit worried personally as well of a possible pullback, and there are some things that we can play during a pullback like this. UVXY, there can be a lot of opportunity there. That was up 10.45% today. SPXS in versus the SPY, and SQQQ in versus the NASDAQ.
Yeah, so definitely keep those tickers close on watch. They have the potential to do very well when the market's selling off, as we've seen over the past few months, especially with the most recent sell-off. But I think it's also very important to look at where money is flowing in the market and around the world right now. I thought it was very, very interesting how Bitcoin actually broke its all-time high today. In Bitcoin, just like gold, is kind of seen as like a safe haven asset right now, and it definitely says something how it's at all-time highs, especially in a situation like this. So of course, as always, keep Bitcoin close on the radar, as well as other crypto-related names, but also keep GLD still very close on the radar. I know it's gold and it's not as fancy or as exciting as Bitcoin, but it is running pretty nicely, and it's very close to all-time highs as well.
Yeah, everybody says Bitcoin's the new gold, but gold is pretty fun to play, especially with options in the short term. They've been pretty fun, especially off this recent dip, and looking at like the hourly on gold, I really do like the way it's starting to extend to the upside, and I would not be surprised to see it pop up to retest like let's say 310 on GLD over the next few trading days. And of course, there's gold related stocks as well, like GDX, which follows a lot of the miners, then even individual miners like NEM and AEM, which can have some pretty big moves as well. AEM has been on fire the past few trading days. And Mike, I know that we still are like not fully out of this Japan situation either. I know that that's still something that, we're looking at here in the short term that can impact, let's say, yields and bonds and everything along that lines. And everybody's also worried about the debt clock in the short term too. We continue to see national debt spiraling out of control. And I know the GOP is trying to pass a bill right now, and the analysts are definitely worried that this is just going to continue to add trillions of dollars to our deficit. And as we know, I mean, I know Republicans like to say that they're going to try to get the deficit down, but, Trump's last term, the deficit definitely didn't go down.
And if you're looking at this in a trading sense, basically you want to look at TLT. As we can see, it has been selling off quite a bit over recent weeks, and what this essentially represents is United States bonds just losing value. People are selling out of them because they see us as being less likely to, pay them back in like a good way. We're losing confidence in this sense, just like Japan is, like we covered in yesterday's video. And if you think that this trend will continue, TLT to the downside would certainly reflect that in a market sense. And it definitely is dumping pretty hardly right now, and its options move quite a bit. So definitely keep this one close on watch.
Yeah, like a lot of traders, they really don't like to or don't understand yields, we'll say, in the short term. And if we look at like US 30Y or even US 20Y, US 10Y, we're seeing a pretty big move to the upside here. If traders were looking at this and let's say they acted like this was Nvidia or AMD or something along that lines, they'd be like, wow, how do I trade this to the upside? And TLT is a really good way to go if you're trying to trade this situation on bonds and the yields. It can definitely be a good move to the downside here in the short term, Mike. But I know that there's another stock in the short term that has been pretty fun. Nvidia had some news today with Jensen Huang early on this morning. Their stock ended up down 1.92%. Recently, they took a stake in a stock called CoreWeave, and this stock has been explosive ever since that news has released. And in the short term, CoreWeave now is doing an offering as well. Looks like they're trying to pay down some debt. And hey, 19% in a given day, that's fantastic. And since their IPO, they're up at their high of day today around 180%.
180%. This recent chart just looks like a exponential increase right here. But talking more about like what's actually happening, essentially what's going on here is they had a $2 billion debt offering, and they just have like a bunch of money just flowing into them right now. As number one, this deal represents a $500 million increase from its initial announcement, but then also two, this debt offering was 5 times oversubscribed. So not only are they in like, let's say like a hot industry connected to AI, not only are they working with the biggest player out there and the leader in AI, Nvidia, but they also have just so much money being thrown at them right now where they're just crushing it. And when you look at their stock, it definitely represents that quite a bit. Tom, given how much the stock is up, what are the ways to play this situation?
Yeah, and in the short term, there's some really good price action with this stock, and we're seeing really good breakout moves. I really don't think that we really need to front run this or anything like that. If we just wait for tomorrow and we're patient and we watch $110 and we wait for a breakout, there could be a good opportunity as we start to see a move up above 110. I really do think it's important, though, to target some of the more psychological levels as the stock rises, like 115 and 120. That's where I would start to look for the stock to turn around until we start to see something established more intraday, which obviously you'll have to adapt to a little bit. But this stock has been really consistent on some high of day breakout moves and has generally moved really well as those breakouts have occurred.
Definitely. And yeah, the stock is certainly in play, and that doesn't mean it has to rise tomorrow, but we do know it's going to trend strongly. So, of course, keep it on the radar because let's say everyone starts to sell out of this one and just like, all rush to the exit at once, there is certainly opportunity playing like the bear move here as well. When you have a stock moving up or down 19% in a day, that results in some massive movement, not only for the stock, but also its options. And our surge bot hit it out of the park today with that. But either way, keep CoreWeave close on watch for some good movement tomorrow. But another stock that we definitely have to talk about is Google. Tom, what is going on here?
Yeah, they're adding AI functions to their search browser, which is actually pretty awesome here. They're going to be adding AI mode, which is pretty fantastic to hear. I know that they actually fell a lot a couple of weeks ago as Apple actually ended up coming out and releasing their own AI integrations into their browser, Safari. And we can see that Google definitely took a massive hit whenever Apple came out with this news. And ever since that hit, they've actually been bouncing back up in a very nice way. But it's really good to see this, I would say. You know, it's kind of like they're coming back here, hitting back at their competition and saying, okay, you know, we'll adapt. We'll add some AI into our search browser too. And I know that there is already some AI into Google, of course, but as they're saying here, you know, you might get to be integrated with ChatGPT and other things along that line. So sounds really good here for Google, Mike. Obviously, they've needed this news, obviously, since Google came out, or since Apple came out, I meant to say, with that news a couple weeks ago that really sent them down. But it's really good to see Google popping back up. Their stock is really resilient. And, you know, going to the heat map today, it's hard to find a green stock, but there's one bright spot here on the map with Google.
There we go. So this news is good in the short term. Not only did it bring in a lot of buying like you highlighted, but it is also good in like a longer term sense as well to see them adapt, especially when Apple hinted at some things that can definitely harm them in a longer term sense. So either way, that's good to see. And I think it'll be important to continue to watch how Google continues to adapt and stay well positioned on the AI front, you know, for like longer term positions with them. So either way, keep that in mind for Google. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's schedule in terms of the economic front and the earnings front.
Yeah, for tomorrow, 30 minutes after the market opens, we do have existing home sales coming out, so be ready for that. That is a 3-star on the Trading Economics calendar, so keep that one definitely on the radar. We do have the weekly initial jobless claims 30 minutes before open as well. If those end up surprising, there could be a move from that, but generally, we don't see anything too crazy. And then on Friday, there's just a couple Fed speeches again there, so be ready for that. And then on the earnings side, Mike, tomorrow we do have ADI in pre-market along with advanced auto parts. In after hours, we have DECK reporting along with Autodesk, Intuit, and Ross. Earnings season's definitely cooling down a little bit, but DECK will be pretty interesting.
Awesome. All right, well, besides that, let's jump right into the SPY levels and analysis for tomorrow. What are the most important levels to look at, and what are you seeing on the charts?
One big thing with the SPY in the short term is that it's actually starting to break below a trend of higher lows, which is not good. This is actually a bearish sign in the short term. I'm going to circle a lot of these hits on the way up over the past few weeks, or couple weeks, I should say, where we've seen a lot of good trends on the SPY and some good bounces back up. With today's move back under 586, we officially broke that trend. So now I'm definitely going to be a little bit more bearish in the short term, and I'm looking at, let's say, some levels coming up on the SPY that might be more, we'll say, further away than what people might expect. I really do think that this 565 to 570 range, where SPY gapped up a couple weeks ago, might end up coming back into play. I was really surprised to see it drop down as much as it did today. It's pretty much, almost halfway to that 570 mark. But as we start to drop, there are going to be some key levels on watch specifically for tomorrow as well. 582, which was the low of day from today, has to be on watch for tomorrow. If we end up breaking under that, I think targeting 580 and then 578 to the downside will be the main way to go there. Of course, there could always be a bounce back up. In that case, there are a lot of resistances. I mainly like 589 and 590, but I just want to reiterate, though, how important it is to zoom out on the SPY a little bit and kind of understand that this uptrend that we've been in is starting to break down a little bit.
No doubt. And that is normal and expected to a certain extent. The market just can't go up every single day. Pullbacks are a function of a healthy market. So keep that in mind. And besides that, let's jump right into some setups and predictions. A stock that is close on watch is SLV, and it is to the upside. I know I mentioned this one yesterday. It had a pretty good day today, and it is definitely still on the bullish radar. Looking at it right now, we are seeing a lot of money flow into safe haven assets, whether it be gold, Bitcoin, or even silver. Silver has been lagging behind some of the other safe haven assets over the past year, but it is gaining more and more momentum in a shorter term sense. I really like the price action over the past few days, and while I wouldn't be surprised if SLV went up tomorrow, this setup is more so a play for the next few weeks and next few months due to the nature of how silver moves and just the nature of the situation we are in right now, as we are seeing more and more people kind of lose confidence investing into US debt, and we're just seeing like more and more people become a little bit uneasy, we can say.
Yeah, definitely. I'm starting to see that a lot in the short term as well. And I think that's really reflected by gold and silver. And it's cool to see silver having these really good days again, like 1.26% days. And, just these really nice moves on the daily chart, starting to extend up really well. I would not be surprised if we tested those recent highs sometime soon. And getting into my first setup for tomorrow, I'm looking at Target, ticker symbol TGT. They actually had a pretty bad earnings report today, fell down 5.2%, and I did not like the way that they closed and pointed a bit lower. They are up pretty significantly from where they opened and that low of pre-market today, but if they can break under that right around $90, I'm going to keep watching for a good continuation to the downside. It was pretty negative to see them have that bad report, and as we can see, Target is in quite the downtrend, especially over the past couple of years. So if we end up breaking 90 tomorrow, keep watching it to the downside and watch for those recent lows to come back into play.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll definitely keep this one close on the radar. Another stock that is definitely close on watch is PANW, and it is also an earnings continuation play to the downside. Looking at this stock today, their price action was pretty rough. They tried to rebound in the middle of the day, but that got rejected really hard, and it closed pretty close to, I don't want to say like its absolute low of day, but it closed relatively close to where it spent most of the day at. It's down by over 7%, and it looks really nasty on the daily chart as well. It's definitely on my bearish radar, and if we see a break below that like 180 support area, that would be a pretty rough sign. There's also some close support right around $178.75 just to be aware of.
Yeah, I definitely am watching this one as well, down 6.8%. Very nice price action to the downside. I really do like these supports for some breakdowns tomorrow as well. With my next setup, I'm looking at Tesla here to the downside. Poor Tesla had a pretty bad close today, and they are right around a key support. We can see in the short term, they are actually channeling. There's been a huge channel on Tesla where they are continually bouncing off of a lower support right around 332 and then bouncing back up towards 350. It's been pretty consistent the past few days, but with the market starting to break down, I am going to watch for them to start to trade back towards this lower range of $320. And as we start to break down tomorrow, hopefully, I'll be watching for 330 on the specific breakdown. If we go over here to the Bookmap, there are a lot of buyers stacked up around that 330 mark, around 72,000 shares. Tesla is a pretty expensive stock, so 72,000 shares is pretty significant for it in the short term, and we can see compared to all the other levels today, this is definitely where one of the larger stacks is, and even larger than 340 overhead.
Awesome. So keep a close eye on that 330 level. There are a lot of buyers stacked up there, and if you guys want to try out Bookmap, definitely check out that link in the description down below to save. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have AST Space Mobile, ASTS, to the downside.
ASTS was very rough today, 4.79%, as some of these growth stocks pull back down. If they break under 2350 just at that low of day, then watch them down.
All right, with the next one, we have HIMS, HIMS, to the downside.
Yeah, unfortunately, HIMS, we can see is selling off in a massive way right here in after hours, even breaking down more. If they break down under $55, then keep watching them down. This is going to be a momentum-filled play.
All right, and then with the last one, we have B2 Gold, BTG to the upside.
Yeah, I called this one out yesterday, and it did pretty well today, but I would love to see it break above $3.25 tomorrow and continue to the upside with gold.
All right, so we have these 3 stocks on the radar for potential continuations tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels listed. Keep them close on the radar, and as always, have stop losses. But besides that, let's jump right into today's $1 million big money trade, and we are looking at ticker symbol CARR. Today, the big money bought the $72.50 strike put options that expire in less than a month on June 20th, and it looks like someone is looking to capitalize off this stock pulling back a decent amount over these next few weeks. For my advanced traders out there, this is also technically a put debit spread where they shorted the 65 strike put options, but either way, this is a bearish trade where they want the stock to fall. Looking at this stock, it definitely is selling off a decent amount today, and it's also making lower highs in a broader sense. I like how there's a fair amount of money put into this trade, coming in at over $1 million. I also liked how they used the spread. It's a very strategic and tactical way to go about placing this. The price action in the short term doesn't look all that great, and we also are seeing weakness in like an overall sense, so it should be interesting, and I definitely think it's worth at least keeping on the radar.
It's starting to turn over in a pretty massive way right now, and I do like the fact that there is that like lower high scenario starting to play out on the daily chart with Carrier, and it is getting very overextended. There's been 2 really big gap ups, or at least fairly large gap ups with Carrier over the past few months, and they've been gapping up with earnings even, so I would not be surprised to see more of a pullback here. I could see them getting towards $70, if not even a little bit less here in the immediate short term. Of course, this is a spread play, but it's a pretty short-term play as well, with only about a month left until expiration. So they're definitely looking for something more in the short term, which could be more advantageous for a lot of traders that, let's say, don't like waiting forever.
Exactly. So either way, keep a close eye on this one. And if you guys are new to the channel, definitely consider obliterating that subscribe button so you can get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day, we cover $1 million big money trades just like this one. The most important news, information, chart setup, SPY levels, and basically everything you have to know in the market. So definitely consider subscribing to hear from us more often. But we also have to give a mega shout out to today's member of the day, AC Philly, who has been absolutely hitting it out of the park in the StockedUp community. Huge shout out to you, AC Philly, for the great profits not only today, but he also had a great post yesterday as well, showing some awesome gains. Keep up the great work going forward, and it is awesome to see all the success that you are having. Keep on rolling. If you guys are into short-term trading, definitely check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to get access to the StockedUp trading floor. We actually have a live event tonight, so if you join before 9 p.m. Eastern time, you will maybe hear from us at the live event if you join up. Today's surge plays hit it out of the park as well with CoreWeave and Google, which was nice to see, and yeah, the link's down below if you want to join. But besides that, thank you all so much for watching. We have a lot going on in the market tomorrow, so it should be a pretty fun day. Besides that, let's crush it, and we'll see you all in the next one.